Welcome to class. My name's Shaylin. I own a beauty college, and I've worked in the beauty industry since 2012 when I got my license. 2015, went back to Tulsa Tech, got my master instructor license. COVID hit, I was working in the field, and then I went back and opened a school around 2020, actually as a result of COVID. And I just want to kind of share with you guys a little bit of what we learned here. I've actually been on a journey learning more about things at the state level, having to drag back up some of my knowledge from civics class and government class and high school and middle school. And the reason for this is because of some of the avenues that I've had to go down, and I feel like I'm learning about the way that our state government works more, and I feel like in turn maybe you guys should learn more about how we work. And I've been going down a few rabbit holes here. I had a student instructor who had some problems with her governing body and some documentation issues. So I was in the process of helping her when everything else kind of came to fruition, and now it's become more of a personal plug to help everybody I can. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to state board meetings, and I hope you guys have attended some too, since I think you guys will be voting on some very big issues coming up. It'd be great to have an understanding of how everything works as well. So I started just attending these state board meetings. They're bi-monthly. There's one coming up this Monday, 10 a.m. at the Oklahoma State Board of Cosmetology and Barbering. I highly encourage you all to sit in on this meeting. The next one won't be until March, which I think is after you're going to vote on these bills. And I think if you're going to make a decision, it should definitely be an educated one. So as I'm trying to help her with answers and attending these meetings, I'm finding out that part of the problem is last year the Oklahoma State Board of Cosmetology brought in a new administrator, the other one retired, and then they're in the process of setting up, and my timing could be off on the exact retirement date, they're in the process of getting a new website developed and working with a Canadian-based company called Ventia, which I've since learned OMES, which I guess governs a lot of our IT stuff within the state, requires that all Oklahoma government entities use Ventia for their website design. Part of me could understand that, the other part of me questions that very, very deeply, because I think there may be some conflict of interest there. So anyways, what happened is the Oklahoma State Board of Cosmetology signed a contract with Ventia. Ventia was supposed to deliver the website, I believe, last March, sometime early last spring. They kept kicking the can, and therefore the website never came to fruition, which caused a tremendous backlog in online licensing at the state board. And then they were understaffed. They lost some staff. They had staffing changes too. So it kind of perpetuated the problem. It was almost that perfect storm. So I figured all this out, still issues with missing documents and whatnot. It's kind of like I found other problems along the way that likely lead up and circle back to problems like what we're dealing with now. So as I'm sure you all are very much aware, a lot of the staff at the Oklahoma State Board of Cosmetology, they don't make a whole lot of money. So in order to entice people like myself who are in the field to come and work for them, they would obviously have to raise their rates. And I think that's what Senator Thompson has proposed with Senator McDougal on the bill that they're proposing. But I also was informed that there was a bill by Senator Bergstrom that was put out, and I was curious as to it. I've still yet to see the bill. I plan to try to read them once I can find them. But it's my understanding, like I said, I haven't got to see it yet, that this bill would push us to be put under the Oklahoma Health Department by July, which is already understaffed and inundated as well. So it would just cause that entity to falter more too, which seems a little bit ludicrous to me, because you're going to put more burden on them. There's, as my understanding, 75,000 plus of us within the state. There are more students within the schools that are going to be graduating out as well too. So that's a huge burden to put on that entity, in addition to the fact that they do not know what we do or how we do it, the what, the hows, and the why. So they wouldn't understand exactly. I know barbering used to be under the health department. Barbers don't work with as many chemicals as our cosmetologists and estheticians and nail techs do. So I could see where that was a lot easier to navigate, and there's also not 75,000 barbers, plus it's 75,000 of us as a whole. So when I reached out to Senator Bergstrom's office, I got in touch with his assistant, Randy, and I didn't get to speak much, but she did tell me when she was talking over me that Mr. Bergstrom doesn't understand why it takes 1,500 hours to become just a hair shampooer. And I was like, Part of me got excited because there's been a lot of push for a license to wash hair, and it would be great for students. And so I was like, oh, this would be great for them to work in the field, washing hair. If that's something we can do a sanitation and safety test on, then they can work in the field while they're in school and gain experience from both sides, which would be fantastic. And as I'm talking to her more, I realized it was the other part of my brain going, no, she's just trying to be rude and condescending to you and talk over you. And I was like, okay. So I asked her, I said, so I teach the Oklahoma State Board of Rules and Regulations book regularly to our students and our student instructors, so I spend a lot of time going through this book, but it does change, and I might not have the most recent copy. I probably don't, because I highlight in mine and then things change. So I got excited, and I said, but can you tell me on what page you see this license, because I have the book here in my hand, for just a hair shampooer? Because, I mean, if there is one, I do want to know. Maybe I need it updated, but... So, anyways, conversation went on. Didn't really get very far. Actually, there wasn't a conversation. She talked. But that's why I've titled this, Becoming Just a Hair Shampooer. So I can tell you guys a little bit about what does hair shampooers do. Okay, so who we are. Cosmetologists, hair, skin, and nails, barbers, primarily men's hair, nail technicians, hands and feet, estheticians, skin all over the body, massage therapy, full body massage, and then master instructors and master educators. And I think there's a lot of confusion here because he's also wanting to eliminate the master instructor licensure, like Texas did. And that actually is very disheartening to me because a lot of people think that when we take that master instructor course, the book is about hair, skin, or nails. It's not. The book is about addressing different learning styles and setting up your classroom to teach effectively, understanding psychological issues. It's actually really fascinating. I encourage you guys to read it. I utilize a lot of the skills that I learned from there with my students on a regular basis, and it also helped me identify some learning disabilities with family members that I wasn't even aware that they had. So I don't think this should ever go away because it's been a huge asset to me. I personally would not want to teach, and I did 300 hours. I wouldn't want to teach knowing what I know now if I didn't do that, because that has prepared me for a lot of things. And I also seek out additional knowledge and training. I've taken college courses in psychology and Spanish. I will tell you the Spanish is not the same, unfortunately, because I did want to reach out to my Spanish-speaking students who that was their first language and hopefully be able to educate them better, but I need more time in the Spanish-speaking culture to properly do that. But I'm trying to seek knowledge, and I want to be the best educator that I can for my students. I think you're going to find educators in our industry who are very passionate about it. That's our goal. So you're going to see us doing whatever we can to reach our students in any way that we can. Okay, moving forward here. So some of what we do, cosmetologists, they of course do haircuts. There's a list of some of the variations. Hair colors, there's lots of variations. It can be an all over color like myself. Sometimes you'll see highlights, you'll see bright vivid colors. There's gray coverage, things you need to know about hot roots and using the right developer for someone like myself who gets hot roots but needs gray coverage. So there's different special little formulas for anomalies in there. Estheticians, they're going to do basic facials, eyelash extensions, which can be very dangerous. You want to make sure you're properly trained in that. You risk causing ulcers in the eye and blindness. Chemical peels, you want to make sure you know the Fitzpatrick level and you're not using a trichloroacetic acid peel when you shouldn't be, because that can cause hypopigmentation. Full body waxing, you want to make sure your client has not been on retinol or Accutane within recent months. I think it's 6 months to a year. I always go for a year. Dermaplaning, very, very important. So it's important to have training for this because when we're dermaplaning, we're using a scalpel. This little guy right here. We're using that to remove the vellus hair. We're using it to also remove the upper layer of the stratum corneum. And when we do that, it's going to give the skin a nice glow because we've removed that hair, the dry dead skin cells that were refracting the light before. So those are things that we teach our esthetician students. We also teach them lash lifted tints, which is a permanent coloring for the eyelashes. We also want them to know proper safety and sanitation on that to prevent harming someone's eyes. Microdermabrasion, another one where you want to know the client's Fitzpatrick level. Make sure you're not going to cause hypopigmentation. Body wraps, you want to make sure you're wrapping in the right direction to not cause any issues with their body and digestion. And then we have oncology facials, which are going to be facials designed for cancer patients. You want to make sure you're properly trained in that, or wash-off facial. Those are going to be advanced facials that you definitely want to know what you're doing because you could cause a lot of harm. Master instructors. So as a master instructor, I teach theory or lecture for an hour a day. In my book, I learned how to break that up a little bit. We do activities, we do Kahoots, we do hands-on activities. We might watch a video and then talk about it. My students create videos. So we have a lot of different ways that we attack our learning here. Sometimes it's student-led learning. If it's a really hard chapter, we break it up and divide it, and we do different projects on there. So the master instructor course to me is very, very important. Also, being a school owner, I want my master instructors to be educated in the proper way to teach. I will not hire anyone who does not have that education. So our master instructors also manage student grades, but they're also going to be keeping an eye on it for a student who might be struggling, but they're just making it. And I want to watch that because when my student goes to take their exam, they're going to be nervous naturally. And if they're making just barely passing grades, that's going to affect their exam grade. So those are things that we kind of keep an eye on to assist our students. We teach our students with different learning styles. Some have ADHD, ADD doesn't exist. Dyslexia, some have reading comprehension struggles. So those are things we sit down with them and work on with because we know that that's important for them to be able to retain the information. We teach students with learning disabilities, which would fall under ADHD. I'm jumping ahead. But different learning styles are going to be students who learn more visually, auditorially, kinesthetically. They might be a combination of all. So we try to keep that in mind when we're preparing our lessons and teaching our lessons. So typically today I would have you guys do a hands-on activity. We would do a Kahoot, which I'm going to email you as a test to go over this. And then we might watch a video or something, which actually happened at the end. Okay. We also have students with personal struggles. Sometimes students need gas money. They need some groceries. They might need diaper money or formula money. We have things set up to help them with that too. Just here within our school ourselves that we've put into place to assist them. Barbers, also haircuts, primarily focusing on men's hair, but they also do straight razor shaves, and when they're learning it, they learn the proper stroke directions and how to properly do that safely and effectively. They actually shave 3 balloons before they ever get to shave a person, and then they have to do 3 models that they know because the nerves are very intense there. And then we let them work on the public. Same thing with our estheticians and eyelashes. They're going to do lots of mannequin work before they get anywhere close to someone's eyes with that glue because of the risk factors. Let's see, they're going to learn hair color just like cosmetologists, basic and advanced hair color. They'll learn texture services like curves and relaxers. Our nail technicians, right here, they're going to learn basic manicure, gel nails, basic pedicures, acrylic nails, light massage, but they're also going to learn advanced pedicure treatments and manicure treatments. And that's important to know if you're working with someone with diabetes too. You want to continue that education because there are certain risk factors involved with diabetic patients and pedicures. We actually had a student instructor whose husband had to have his foot amputated due to getting an infection from a pedicure, and we're regulated. There are going to be people that slip through the cracks, just like crime. But I wonder what would happen if we weren't regulated. What would happen if there were no police? Would there be no crime? I don't think it would work that way. So if we weren't regulated, people would probably just be worse. Yeah, I wouldn't, but I have a lot at stake. Okay, and then we get into massage therapists. So your massage therapists are going to do body wraps as well as the estheticians. They're going to do that Swedish light massage, lymphatic drainage massage, which is going to be important to understand and know more about because you're moving fluid around the body. Deep tissue massage, I definitely want someone to have training before they come after me to do a deep tissue massage. I love a good deep tissue massage. Acupuncture, I want to make sure that I know my acupuncturist, which she's awesome, thank you Jenny, uses clean needles for me and then make sure they go into a sharps container. We want to make sure no one's reusing those. In addition to that, they also do body scrubs and cupping. Cupping is amazing for pain relief too. But we want them to be educated also on prenatal massage because we don't want to cause any harm by accident and lack of education. So what do we learn in school? So as far as basics, all of our students go over anatomy, chemistry. We want to know what ingredients are in our products. We want to know the how, the what, and the why. So we actually do product presentations regularly and tell what it is, how it works, what it does, how you use it, what the cost is, what the reviews are, so our students can learn the products that we use. Diseases and disorders of the skin and the nails. We also go over diseases and disorders of the scalp. I just ran over for pictures there. So we do a lot of science as well. To be just a hair shampooer, it takes a few science chapters too. So, why do we learn things? Or why do we learn these things? Basically, it's to avoid causing injury or spreading disease. So, we need you guys to listen intently. This is not my former student's husband's foot. This is gone, just in case you were confused. This is an example of a chemical burn. It looks like a lightner, maybe. Lice. We actually teach students how to spot that and handle that professionally. And then disease. There actually was an instance that the previous director told us about where a wax house was letting clients use their own can of wax. Well, not letting the clients, but they were double dipping, which is something we teach you never, ever, ever do, even if it has that person's name on it. Their client ended up getting an STD in their eye from double dipping their wax. So we teach those things, and we teach how to avoid them, and we stress them significantly. You'll find that most cosmetology students, after they graduate, are a lot more sanitary than they were before. Things that you didn't think about, you now realize are disgusting, especially when we grow out cultures after we swab the city and see what things we touch on a regular basis as a touch point grow the nastiest cultures of bacteria. Okay. So what are the risks of less education? So I know Senator Bergstrom's proposed bill, or I don't know, I've been told that it's to cut the cosmetology hours back to 500. Like I said, I've not got a chance to read it yet, but the risk of cutting hours. So there's roughly 32 chapters in each book. I'll show you, this is our, heads are rolling. This is our cosmetology book. This book right here, I will give you an up close and personal shot of it. I won't be able to see if it captures everything, but there's chapters 1 through 6, general sciences here, and then we get into some other chapters here as well. So anatomy and physiology, nail disorders, properties of the scalp, hair styling, hair cutting, nail structure and growth, basics of electricity, skin disorders and diseases, and skin structure for growth and nutrition. Oh wow, it goes on even further. So these are just some of the things that we cover in there in this little hair shampooer book. And then over here, the aesthetics book. It's a little smaller. It's just a 600-hour course. We don't let them wash hair though. Not that I don't think they're capable. It just doesn't really go along with what we do. But I'm pretty sure if you guys can wash hair, they can do it too. So, aesthetics book. We have anatomy and physiology, physiology and histology of the skin, diseases and disorders, skin analysis, chemistry and ingredients, and then we go into facial massage, devices and technology. So their book only has 13 chapters, so not quite as much, but we do go down a lot of different avenues and do a lot of research. So it's kind of fun when we find something that interests us. And all of my esthetician students kind of jump in and start to break down the process and do research to find answers. This book here is our barber book. Barber is also another 1,500-hour course. So our barber chapters, let's see how many of these guys have. They have 21 chapters in their book. But they also go over the same basics, chemistry and anatomy, and electricity, skin structure, disorders. Yeah, 21 chapters. So they have a few less chapters in there, but they do not go as in depth into nails and skincare though. Okay, so if we reduce the amount of education for our students to the 500 hours, I don't know that is exactly what's on there, but that's what I'm told. So right now we're in class for 1,500 hours. I have to figure out a way to cram 32 chapters into a third of the time and give them a quality education along with hands-on experience. That's going to be very difficult. In addition to that, a lot of the programs will no longer qualify for financial aid because they have to be at least 500 hours or more. And I know that if we cut the cosmetology back to 600 hours, I'm competent enough to know that they're going to also want to cut back our nail tech, massage therapy, and aesthetics programs to a third of what they are, which would push them back to about 200 hours. 200 hours in aesthetics is not enough for all the things that we go over. So there's a massive risk to public health and safety, and this alone should be one of our greatest concerns, because a lot of what we do is training on safety and sanitation, proper product use, using and implementing things in the correct way so it's safe for the client. We may also experience another mass exodus from our field, similar to that when COVID occurred. I have people reaching out to me regularly because they still are understaffed, because a lot of people just completely left the industry when we were on lockdown because they needed to find a way to make an income. How it's going to affect the schools and the salons. Many small locally owned schools may have to shut down. A lot of them are dependent on financial aid, and if these programs no longer qualify for that, then they will not have a whole lot of students who can pay for this out of pocket as cash. We don't accept financial aid yet. We have been putting a lot of money in working towards that accreditation at the federal level. So unfortunately for us, if that were to happen, it would be just a huge waste of money for a small business, which is no fun at all. The huge corporations, they can afford that. Small businesses can't, and I'm kind of feeling like this may be a squeeze on the small business. But many of these schools are privately owned. There are your career techs as well. They typically have a 2-year wait. I worked at Tulsa Tech and wanted to take the barber program, and it was a true 2-year wait because I was working for another company by the time they called me and told me it was my turn to get my barber license, but the school I worked for would have fired me if I went to their school to get my barber license, unfortunately. So these things are going to have a big impact on the small business owner, and to get into career tech, there's already a huge wait. It's already really hard to get in there, and it feels like the push is towards deregulation. Like, let's make it so hard that they have to be deregulated. And I would really like to understand where that's coming from, the what and the why. So I'm giving you guys insight to my what and why. I'm going to ask you to do the same, because I need you to make it make sense for me. Okay, so those will likely either shut down or lay off some of their staff because they're not going to have the same amount of income coming in. And then I would guesstimate they probably have 10 to 20 people on staff on average. Don't know for certain. Like I said, most programs won't qualify for financial aid. Salons may lose quality staff due to a saturated market, and those who are untrained offering services below the market to entice sales, which is going to actually cause more health safety issues. And the salons are going to have to educate and train, and they're already understaffed and busy. So what do you think is going to happen? Hit the ground running, best of luck to you. It's going to be hard to train someone when you're already swamped on how to do things. I guess you could just make a bunch of hair shampooers and then you do everything else. Okay, what's class like? We do a lot of hands-on activities. The students in this photo are actually making tie-dye shirts. We do that with color theory. We use the color wheel a lot. We do a lot of experiments with cause and effect. We make bath bombs, especially when we're going over chemistry and ingredients. Like I said, we swab the city. We grow cultures out. We do a lot of networking at networking events. We do job fairs here. We have guest speakers come in, like CPAs, insurance agents. We have people coming in to do a marketing class. And overall, we have a really good support system here. A lot of what we do is just supporting the students, and sometimes it might just be something in life that they need help with. So a brief look at what an esthetician learns in addition to anatomy, chemistry, electricity, and sanitation and diseases. So they're going to learn the basic facial, and these are the basic facial steps here. They're going to learn that on their first day of class, and they'll get a facial and give a facial. And it'll take a while to retain all that, and as they progress, they learn more and do more, and they'll get better at it. Just like with anything else, you've got to fine-tune and hone that skill. One of the things that we learn about are mites, the natural flora and fauna of our body. We have tiny little mites that live on our skin and come out at night to do the work they need to do. So we need to wash our face twice a day, in the morning to wash off the feces and at night to give them a clear palate to work from because they're going to eat all those dry dead skin cells. We want to make sure that we're monitoring sun damage because of this gentleman who we refer to as trucker face. If you notice, this side of his face is extremely more damaged than this side because he was a truck driver for many years. There was actually a college that did a study on this, and you can find him on the internet. Just Google trucker face. We talk about SPF and sun protection, why it's important, and also the importance of exfoliation and how not exfoliating properly can actually cause other problems. And then we go into Fitzpatrick levels, which are very important to know. So, mites and cleansing. So using the proper cleanser is going to be important, and we're going to educate our clients on the proper cleansers because we're going to do those product reviews each week, and we're going to know our products. And then we're going to know that some products over the counter can be damaging. Some are too harsh, and so our students learned to know when to advise their clients to use different products than what they're using. We talk a lot about sunscreen and the effects that the sun has on our skin and aging and skin cancer risk. Our students know that a chemical sunscreen only protects them from the UVB or burning rays, whereas a physical is going to protect from both the aging and burning rays as well as the cancerous rays. They also understand that we need to stay between an SPF of 30 and 50 because anything below isn't doing you any good and anything over is overkill. And that they need to reapply depending on the level. So it's 1 minute per level. If it's an SPF 30, 30 minutes. SPF 50, 50 minutes. Says the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. So I would like for us to begin doing by more talking, actually. I want to discuss what the issues are. I want to discuss what some of the resolutions are. And I want to figure out how we can find a way to compromise and not leave anybody out in the process. So I'm hoping that you guys will listen. Okay, Fitzpatrick scale. This goes through the different Fitzpatrick levels and the skin tones and typically how the sun is going to affect them. I know that anything on a Fitzpatrick 4 or higher, I'm not going to do a deep exfoliation with, like a trichloroacetic acid pill or heavy microderm. I'm going to be very, very careful with my Fitz 4 and higher. Cell renewal factor. This is important for students. They need to know how often our skin is shedding cells. So like all those little dust particles in your house that are dust mites and skin cells. Babies are turning over new cells and children every 14 days roughly. Teens, 14 to 21 days. It's good to talk to them about exfoliation and acne. Adults, 20 to 30, every 21 to 35 days. And adults by age 30 to 55 days. And so I need to know what I can do to help stimulate the cell renewal factor in them. So we explain the what, the how, and the why. At different stages in life, our skin will need different things. Diseases and disorders, we actually go over this quite thoroughly. I have one of my aesthetics classes on this chapter right now. It's a pretty gruesome chapter to go through. They will know by the time we're done how to spot things, but how to also delicately handle them with the client and knowing that they cannot diagnose because that is out of their scope of practice. So if they were to see a squamous cell carcinoma, they may recognize it, but they're going to know they can't tell their client that's what it is because they're not a doctor and they cannot diagnose. They're also going to not want to alarm this client because they could be wrong because they're not a doctor and they cannot diagnose. But they are going to know it's something that needs to be brought to a doctor's attention, and they are trained on how to advise that client in a proper way. Hey, I noticed a spot here that I haven't seen before. It looks a little different. Will you do me a favor? Before your next appointment, will you go have a doctor just look at it, make sure everything's okay? I don't want to irritate it or anything. Those are things that we teach them on how to be a professional in the field. They learn that 80 to 90% of our aging comes from the sun, hence trucker face. Some diseases and disorders such as eczema are not contagious. We want them to know. And we don't need to panic if something looks a little abnormal because that can make our client embarrassed. It says where some are contagious, such as infections like MRSA or fungal infections, often skin therapists are the first to notice things such as actinic keratosis, which is a precancerous lesion. We spend roughly 2 weeks going over these diseases and disorders. We talk a lot about moles, asymmetry, things to look out for. Skin lesions include bumps, patches, and changes in texture and color. Possible causes can range from acne to skin cancer. And then we go over chemistry, so our students know, we go over the pH scale, they know what ingredient is best suited for what. They know vitamin C is brightening, hyaluronic acid is moisturizing, salicylic acid is great for acne, glycolic acid is going to be a mild AHA, and then we have lactic acid with a little bit more oomph. We've got ceramides for sealing the skin, niacinamide for brightening and helping with oil production, also great for adult acne, and vitamin E. So they will understand all those things and quite a bit more by the time they graduate. Those are very basic. Physiology, we talk a lot about the upper layer of the epidermis, like the stratum corneum, stratum lucidum, stratum spinosum, stratum germinativum. I'm missing one in there, but we go through a lot of that because that is the scope and the area in which we work. But what else do hair shampooers learn? Well, they definitely learn how to be a fantastic shampooer, of course. But if we're being honest, I can teach you how to be a good hair shampoo. You're either going to be good at it or you're not, though, because that's going to be on you. And I can teach you that in less than a week. But we do need to know proper safety and sanitation. Another thing we go over in depth is levels of light and dark and their underlying pigments, the primary colors, secondary and tertiary colors, because they're going to need to know how to do color corrections. We also go over proper mixing and how we create different volumes of developer when they're not handy, or if we need another color but it's not handy, they learn how to formulate to create that color, in addition to learning how to neutralize unwanted tones and avoiding over processing or melting the hair. We spend about 2 weeks on that as well. We learn about contraindications. So there's a few lists of contraindications here, but I'll go over some of the more pertinent ones. Cold sores, pregnancy, diabetes, chemotherapy, epilepsy, a herpes outbreak, or an allergy, or perhaps it's a Fitzpatrick level. A contraindication is something that's going to limit your client from receiving a service. So they will be contraindicated for that. And depending on their client intake form and your consultation with them, that's going to determine whether or not you're aware of the contraindications. So you want to be sure that you can give a proper consultation and you have an intake form. On the job, they're going to need to know their state regulating agencies. They need to know what they need to do for taxes. That's been a huge push in our industry. We have a lot of numbers that are skewed because stylists aren't reporting their numbers right. So we're actually bringing in guest speakers and having them talk to them about the importance of properly reporting your taxes in order to become more financially stable and later on be able to purchase a home or a car or things of that nature. If you're not showing enough income, you're never going to be able to own your own home, but, well, at least not with a mortgage lender, or if you do, it's going to be less a home than you would probably like if you're not showing your full income. We also teach them how to set up their EIN. They learn about LLCs, S Corps, sole proprietorships, and how to do marketing. We bring guest speakers in on marketing as well. Scalp care and shampooing. So, says in Wool Chapter 15 is important. It's just a tiny fraction of what we do. We learn massage, making sure there's no scalp abrasions, the benefits of proper hair brushing. We provide proper shampoo service. We recommend the proper products depending on the hair and scalp type. We also go over professional draping and the benefits. But like I said, we can certify you that in a week if you can pass the test for the chapter. We get into perms, relaxers, and keratin treatments. We tell them why it's important to know their client's hair history. They understand perms and relaxers are not friends. Lightener doesn't go well with them either. And they need to know the importance of not over-processing the hair and avoiding chemical burns. I myself, as a small child, suffered a chemical burn from a perm. Don't know why my hair was burned, because it was curly anyways. But I had a scab the size of the palm of my hand on the back of my neck as a small child. So we go over that quite intensely. I don't want anybody to harm anyone ever because of a lack of knowledge or training. Hair cutting, we talk a lot about angles. You'll see here we deal a lot with geometry and geometrical shapes. We talk a lot about proper shear handling. You'll see here where my thumb is, that is the movable blade. Where my pinky is resting is the tang. And then our immobile blade is where my ring finger rests. We talk about proper shear and comb handling and proper body mechanics and using everything and using your body correctly along with your tools, because we tell them their body is going to be their most valuable tool and and they only have one. So a lot of what we do is teaching them how to properly use the tools they have with their body to help with longevity in their career. And just so you know, this is a shag, also referred to as a 90-degree haircut. This is a bob, and it is a 45-degree haircut. Now, I'd love to teach you guys how to do those. Unfortunately, we would need more time to do that. But if you want to come down and spend a day with us, this is your formal invitation. Just give us a call, 918-237-9437. Okay, next up, barbering. I had to cut it short. Our barbers are going to learn treatments of the hair and scalp, lots of men's cutting and styling, lots of different textures too, men's facial massage, men's hair replacement, shaving, and we actually do nice little diagrams because this is some of the ways that we learn. Chemical texture, they're going to learn perms as well, and hair coloring and lighting. So with our students, we actually go over quite a bit of information. Even if we're just talking color theory, we're going to talk about canceling out unwanted pigments. These are some swatches they use to practice on. We get it to the color we don't like and neutralize to get it to the proper color. In addition to that, we also have a library that contains things like this. This is the Toner Bible, and if you're interested, to all my stylist friends, it's on Amazon. Everybody here seems to love it. I haven't got to play with it yet. And we spend a lot of time with this little guy here, the color wheel. He is going to be a huge asset to anybody. In addition to learning how to create things that we may not have on hand. So we learn how to create a 20-volume developer with these two little guys here. And we also learn how to formulate for colors that we might not have on hand. When we get to anatomy, we'll do a lot of drawing and hands-on activities such as this. These are the nerves of the face. And this is actually a student drawing, so that's how we get more use out of our mannequin heads as well. We're going to talk about levels of darkness and underlying pigments, as that's going to be important. We do little crafts when we get into anatomy to help with retention, because we know hands-on activity helps the brain to remember. And then in addition to that, we have additional books for things such as anatomy and additional resources for them to learn from as well. There's quite a bit. Actually, this is the tiniest portion that I could touch on today. I'm actually running behind. But I'm going to leave you guys with this. So did you know it's possible to make $100,000 a year in our industry, or a six-figure income is 100% possible. There's a link in the PowerPoint that I'm going to send you guys that lists the average cost and services of a hairstylist. Also, we have an awesome program in some of our prison systems in Oklahoma. There's a link to an article here in the Lure magazine talking about how our industry offers second chances to turn around lives. So these women are going to come out with a cosmetology license and be able to go right to work. So that's pretty awesome. I don't know if there's a program in the men's facilities yet, but it will give them an opportunity to make money and have a sustainable living where they can provide for themselves and their families. In addition to that, this industry empowers women such as myself to become entrepreneurs and break cycles. Some people probably don't like that though. So I grew up very poor. A lot of times we didn't have groceries. We rarely had groceries. My parents both worked minimum wage jobs. We did not qualify for food stamps. So a lot of times the only time I ate was at school. I remember my mom begging friends for $5 so she could buy a package of hamburger meat for us. I will never do that because I worked my rear off to get where I'm at. So that my child doesn't know the same thing that I knew. So this industry is a great outlet for people like myself who are trying to overcome generations of lack of education or abuse or alcohol and drug addiction. It's a great way to turn your life around. This is actually a YouTube link here. It's for an angel haircut. It's how we as women support each other in this industry. I'm sure you guys have heard of the angel shot. Feel free, you'll have to copy and paste that one. Unfortunately, wouldn't load properly onto this, but I thought that was pretty amazing of how we support each other and protect each other in there too. But if it wasn't for this industry, I think a lot of other children might be at home sitting there hungry right now, but instead they have moms and dads that can properly provide for them. Thank you for your time. I hope to meet with with you all soon. Hopefully it's a good working meeting where we can discuss and talk about things and maybe figure out some resolutions for our problems. Please do reach out to me, and I hope you guys do well on your quiz, because I want to see if you can beat some of my students. I'm going to have them take it too. Thanks, guys.